Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good evening, my colleagues of the House. I rise in opposition of House File 68 because it stinks. I wasn't sure if I could say that under Rules 10, but listen, this is irresponsible. And this is our use of taxpayer dollars that we are charged with protecting. And in the style of Representative Wills, I would just like to address some of the arguments of those who share a different view from mine. And those are the talking points of some Iowans who want school vouchers, who tend to actually exactly replicate the talking points of the private school industry. One of the talking points is don't call them vouchers. Call them school educational savings accounts. That sounds better. You know, I have no problem with establishing educational savings accounts as long as I'm not putting my dollars into them. They're called 529s, by the way, if you want an educational savings account. They already exist, administered by the state. Another talking point that a lot of folks will say, and most of the Iowans that I hear from who are speaking in favor of school vouchers already have their kids in private schools. I don't know if you look through your emails. The majority of the people who want these vouchers, want these government dollars, have already had their choice in schools honored under their own buck. So what this really is, and if you look at, by the way, at the fiscal note, LSA says that by fiscal year 2027, that'll be about 42,000 students, excuse me. Currently, there's 33,000 who are in private schools. So that means 79% of people, by the time this is fully introduced, 79%, we're already going to private school. So what this really is a government handout. A government handout to people who don't need it. And it's taking dollars away from people who really need every single dollar they can get. I live in Des Moines, in a neighborhood very close to downtown. It's called Sherman Hill. And part of my neighborhood is a community called Oak Ridge Community. And this is the state's largest project-based Section 8 housing complex. Hundreds of families live there. Most of them are immigrants. And our neighborhood is served by a small elementary school called Edmonds Elementary. This is a school of about 265 students, and there are over 20 languages spoken there. The main ones are Swahili, Somali, Kunama, Arabic, Spanish, and some more Pashtuni now. 20 languages, 100% free and reduced lunch students. Most of them, or a lot of them anyway, their parents don't have cars. Most of the students require ELL services, English as a second language, or English language learning services. A lot of them need counseling due to the traumas of their history in the country they lived in prior. Now, Edmonds currently is not doing so well. If you look at academic outcomes of Edmonds Elementary, they fall below the state average in every single measure. And I was at Edmonds this morning speaking with the principal, and Principal Rittman told me, you know, it really sucks because we were doing really well until our funding couldn't keep up with inflation. I said, what would you do if you magically were given some extra money? Well, we definitely hire more teachers. They used to have 3 teachers for every grade. Now they can only afford 2 teachers for every grade. That means bigger classroom sizes. They would have more ELL teachers to help kids learn English so they can have those basic building blocks to get an education. And they'd get more school-based therapists. Now, Another one of the arguments from the other side is that of the parents who have their kids in private schools is that, hey, listen, these are my tax dollars. I should be able to say where my tax dollars go and choose which school. I want to remind everybody that we all, whether you have school-age children or not, pay tax dollars for public school because public schools are for the common good of our entire society. And as I was walking around Edmonds Elementary today, I was meeting some kids. I met some third graders. Hector wants to be a doctor. Hamdi wants to be a teacher. Nalaya wants to be a police officer. There's a boy named Sincere. He wants to be a snake keeper, honorable profession. There's a boy named Aaron who wants to be an engineer. I asked what kind of engineer. He said, I don't know, whatever Elon Musk does, but just better. You know, these are the people who are going to be taking care of us. There's an interest in each and every one of us as part of this society to make sure that the whole of our society is educated. By taking dollars that are given to a public service and using them for private use, that's analogous for me saying, you know what, take the money I was going to give to the police department, and I'd like to actually hire my own private security detail. Take the money you're going to give to the fire department, and I would actually like to install a sprinkler system into my house. Forget the library funds I was going to give in my tax bill. Can I just have a gift certificate to Barnes & Noble? When will the privatization of every one of our public services end? Sometimes there are things that we can do as a society that is actually better, believe it or not, than private companies, believe it or not. And that's why we have public services. Because what these services do is their incentive is just the betterment of the people who all buy into it, rather than making a profit. I ask that you all please take the long view here. Realize that we're all just warming these seats in this chamber, and that much of what we do tonight will reverberate, perhaps for generations. Will this be the first step in a walk away from public schools to a two-tiered system? And will you be part of that first step, where we might look back generations from now and say, oh yeah, I started that? Where we've developed a system of the haves and the have-nots in education? Despite every other great nation in this world having well-funded public education? I ask finally that you all just listen to Iowans, because I guarantee you, there's been polls on this, the majority of Iowans don't want this. But the majority of Iowans aren't being heard because the way that our system tends to work right now is it listens to people who have the means to be heard. Well, tonight I will be the voice of those living in my neighborhood, because right now they are stretching their dollars to put food on the table where they don't have the extra cash to put an ad on TV. Please do the right thing. Thank you.